I like to use the simple 3 words: to feel, deal, and heal. So the most simple step is the first, to just feel it. A lot of times we want to escape it, we want to mask it, and we don't want to feel. But you got to feel that hurt deep down in your soul. I say, like, when the losses that I've sustained, like, injured my soul. And I feel like, until you just really just lay down in the gutter of the grief, feel it, cry, give yourself grace, excuse me. And then if it's 1 second, I feel better for a second. And then the next 2 seconds, you feel bad again. It's okay. Just keep going. The fact that you can get up out of bed, if you can get up out of bed, you can do everything.
I wanted to create a space, an offering, if you will, where we can experience the human spirit through conversations to make connecting with others matter again. There is a need for a sacred and safe place to simply be, with no judgment and no ridicule. A place where storytelling stimulates peace-filled conversations, conversations that allow for our guests to be seen, felt, and heard. Conversations that help to build a bridge for connection and community with our audience, and conversations that create new perspectives. This is the conversation piece. We invite you to sit back and enjoy. Greetings, everyone, and welcome to the conversation piece. I am your host, Kelly. Today's conversation is about life and death, the grieving process. Our guest is my beautiful friend, Kelly Buffaloe Taylor, or as I call her, my Kelly.
Yes, the
She
Kelly.
is a pioneering advocate for self-care and the founder of I Heal Tap, a grief and bereavement wellness service. And as a certified grief counselor, Kelly empowers her clients with insights into grief while promoting boundaries and self care during the healing process. Sis, welcome to the conversation piece, and thank you so much for being
You
here.
are so welcome, and thank you for having me. This is not a topic that is sexy nor fun,
Mhm.
but important. So I appreciate
Absolutely.
you for doing this.
How are you?
I'm doing well. Yeah,
Good.
I love springtime, so that makes me happy.
Okay.
Yeah,
Absolutely. Me too. I'm spring and summer. Let's get over this cold weather.
over it.
So, I wanted to have this conversation with you for several reasons. The main one being, as you know, my father transitioned unexpectedly in November of 23. And as they say, there are 5 to 7 stages of grief. And I swear I experienced all of them in 2 hours after I received
Mm,
that call. So I wanted to get a professional perspective on the process of grief and what life can be like after such a transition. You wrote an amazing journal, a
thank
Griever's
you.
journal that I have right here. And thank you again for gifting me this during my time of grief.
You're welcome.
But before we dive into this, was there something that happened in your life that made you say, I'm going to become a grief counselor and help others?
Yes, I share this because I'm asked a lot. Why do you do this? And most people like myself get here because of something. Like, you don't just wake up and say, I want to be a grief counselor. I lost my first husband, 1999. Beautiful brother, Rodney Buffalo. He was, excuse me, only 30 years old. And he died as a result of a kidney transplant that didn't go so well. I didn't know what to do. No one looked like me at the time. Everybody had an opinion. Everybody had a suggestion. Everybody had a thought about what I should be doing. And I love learning. I was in school at the time, and I just said, hey, I don't want to do all that social work stuff. Give me everything about death and dying. I want all of it. I need to understand what is going on and how do I help myself. And then subsequently, I just said, well, now I want to help other people. And it took me to hospice. It took me to the funeral homes. And here I am again today, still with hospice.
So this is like your gift of service.
It has to be because it never goes away.
Mhm.
I've tried to walk away,
Really?
and yeah, and I went on the collegiate level and was a director of a career services department. I thought, oh, I'm going to help these young people get jobs, and when they graduate, I love that. But then it called me back, and it's like, okay, so I don't fight it anymore, and I'm
Yeah.
actually in a really good place today,
Mhm.
and am actually enjoying it. Yeah.
Yeah, that's beautiful, Kelly.
Thank
And
you.
with this journal, I didn't write in the journal. I take notes in my phone, but it helped me so much. I mean, what I experienced because it was so unexpected, even though I innately knew that, his time was coming to an end, it just felt like I was drowning in quicksand. And then the first 2 weeks I woke up, I was in my bed and I think I had my meditation and I was like, I don't want to feel like this. I'm a crier. I'm emote outwardly, I express outwardly, but I just got to the point where I was like, this I feel like I'm dying.
Yeah.
And I wanted to celebrate him. I wanted to celebrate life. And I just said, I don't want to do this. And, like I said, I made that decision. And it was like I was on this high that I never wanted to come down from. I say this often that my heart was broken wide open. And that was my transition, if you will, into my grief process. It didn't take long. I don't think that it has to take long.
Yeah.
Um, for you being a grief counselor, what are some things that people can do to take the first step into growing through this process?
I like to use the simple three words: to feel, deal, and heal. So the most simple step is the first to just feel it. A lot of times we want to escape it, we want to mask it, and we don't want to feel. But you got to feel that hurt deep down in your soul. I say, like, when the losses that I've sustained, like, injured my soul. And I feel like, until you just really just lay down in the gutter of the grief, feel it, cry, give yourself grace, excuse me. And then if it's 1 second, I feel better for a second. And then the next 2 seconds, you feel bad again. It's okay. Just keep going. The fact that you can get up out of bed, if you can get up out of bed, you can do everything.
I agree. I wasn't at that point. I will say the first couple of days, just, oh my goodness. I mean, I had to go to the ER. Actually, I had to go to the ER twice.
I believe that.
And they were like, for chest pains, and they were like, yes, it's just grief. And
Yeah,
then my acupuncturist was saying, get some rose oil, put it over your heart space because your heart is broken.
yeah,
And I didn't have that, but I had some rose spray. And so I sprayed it on my heart space and on my pillow so that I can go to sleep because I just couldn't believe that he wasn't here anymore. And I did. I was down and out. I mean, I outwardly I was functioning, but I just couldn't believe that he was gone. And again, those 5 to 7 stages, like I said, I felt in 2 hours after the call, the crying, the upset. If it wasn't for one of my girlfriends who was here, I
yeah,
would have probably tore up my apartment
yeah,
because I was so angry and I was so numb. I am somebody that feels everything, so that wasn't
yeah,
an issue for me. Just getting over that initial hump of pure shock.
yeah.
You know what I mean?
You know that broken heart syndrome is a real thing. And I'm so thankful that you were able to pull yourself up from that, because
Mhm.
that will take you out. Grief
Yeah.
manifests physically, spiritually, emotionally, but we don't always talk about the physical effects of grief. You walk away from grief with all kind of illnesses, comorbidities that'll stay with you, and you got to work them out. Yeah.
Yeah. So, what do you find that people, or do you find that people have a different outlook and perspective on life when they experience such a difficult thing, such as death?
I think that grief has a way of changing you. You'll never be the same after losing your dad. I remember a video, it's on my page, and the a lady was saying that she had to tell a friend, you've never lost a dad. You don't know what it's like to be in this world without your dad. It changes you. You can't come out the same person. It's going to either make you stronger. Some people, unfortunately, are not strong enough and they succumb to that grief, and mental illness creeps in, and grief has to be attended to
Mm-hmm.
because it does change you. But on the good side, you can find purpose in that pain.
And that's pretty much what my excuse me, my experiences have been. And also just to note that grief doesn't have to be the death of a loved one, a parent, a friend. It could be, some people grieve from quote unquote losing their jobs,
Yeah.
or friendships that have been forever.
I've heard that divorce is like a death, losing someone. I've not experienced it personally, but I've heard that so many times. Yeah.
I've actually have talked to somebody about that where they were in the throes of divorce, and I was like, and this was a long time ago, but I literally told him, I was like, this is a death. You've been with this sister for a long time, so now you're having to traverse a new terrain that you've never had, she's never experienced, and you have children.
Yeah.
So how do you move forward with that?
Yeah.
So with this journal, what was your main premise for writing it?
Well, it used to be a pamphlet, and I wished I had it with me, but I have it somewhere in my office. It was a pamphlet, and I have always, excuse me, made these baskets that were shipped all over the country once upon a time. And now the baskets are a grief box, a grief kit, if you will. And I would include this pamphlet because I thought it's nice to give this comforting cookies and teas and candies, whatever. That's nice. But I want to go a little further and help them more. So I said, let me just type some things up. And my daughter made it look really pretty. And I said, I'll add this. And so people started asking me for copies of it. And I'm like, you like that? Okay. And I would give out copies. And my daughter is such the entrepreneur. Ma'am, can't be giving away your intellectual property like that. Write a book, you know. So finally, I just said, okay, I'll write the book. So I basically turned that pamphlet into a book. Yeah.
Well, again, I appreciated being gifted this. It did help me through my
I'm
my
glad.
transition and my grief process. Again, everybody, it is a griever's journal. At the end of the show, we will give all your information
Okay.
out there.
Okay. Thank
So
you.
they can get, absolutely. So I want to kind of segue into, you've had grief, I've had grief, but you've most recently
Yeah.
experienced grief, and want to talk about your beloved sister,
Thank you.
Tammy. And it was through her that I met your beautiful daughter, Bria, almost 19 years ago. She was my little sister, as you know, when I was with Sister Keeper and Kelly. As I've told you, I adore Bria. I love her.
She loves you.
Yes, she is an
Yeah.
amazing human being. Now she's a
Thank
mom
you.
of two.
Yeah.
Um,
I'm a grandma.
yes, 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 yes. And we'll get into that shortly too.
Okay. Okay.
But last July, our beloved Tammy Holland, who was a legendary radio host here in St. Louis loved her as much as she loved St. Louis. So, what comes to mind when you think of Tammy?
Girl, it's like a part of my life is gone. Feels like part of my history went with her. Yeah, I don't know how I make it every day. I really don't. I have to just say that I do very well with compartmentalizing my grief in order to do the work that I do. But every day I'm talking to her, or I drop an F bomb when I'm driving real loud or something, because it's like, and I'm like, okay, shake it off and let's keep moving. But no, injured my soul.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, with that being said, what have you done for your grieving process?
So, as you know, she was very transparent with the world about her transitioning. Once we knew she was going on to hospice, I started anticipatory grieving. And I was so intentional about how I grieved her before she died. I was working, I worked from home, and I would go on my lunch break and I would swim and I would play music and I would like do a lap and then just bawl cry and then do another lap and then do another lap and just cry and I did this for days. So that when the time came, I knew that I had to put my big girl pants on because she was not married and I was her person and I was her sister keeper and I had to take care of her and do everything from the arrangements to the burial and who gets invited and to the repast. And there's a lot of stuff that I never wanted to do. And I tried my best not to do it. And everybody said, well, who's going to do it if you don't? So grieving her before she died helped me when she died. Now, do I grieve? Yeah, I do. But I think I've done better because I gave myself that space to think about life without her before she was gone. Yeah,
Yeah. Thank you for sharing that.
you're welcome.
Because it's not easy at all. And then like you just said, compartmentalize. A lot of people, and also like you said earlier, a lot of people don't feel it. They want to push it down, they want to move it away. And it's just like, I gotta stay busy. I gotta stay busy. How are you doing? I'm keeping busy. And for me, that wasn't an option
Yeah,
because, with my mother transitioning 6 years ago, it took me into a brand new way of being. Not that, my parents were, my everything and I depended on them and everything like that. I mean, because I've been a very independent child. Thanks, Dad, for that. Um, However, it was like now I'm a woman without a mom. What does this mean?
yeah,
And I was on this spiritual, if you will, high. I was on this high, Kelly. I didn't care what anybody thought about me. I didn't care what they felt, what they said. I was all about who I was, and I was setting boundaries in my life. And one of my girlfriends said, Kelly, when your mom transitioned, it was like you slammed back down to earth because I was in the heavens, really seriously. I was living life to the fullest.
yeah,
And my last conversation with her, I decided that I was going to be here for my birthday because I was going to travel. And that year, they put her on hospice on my 46th birthday.
on your birthday.
And she transitioned exactly 2 weeks to the day. But the divine thing I'll say is that I had visions before. My birthday is in December, like yours.
Yes,
And so the end of November, beginning of December, I had this premonition and I just kept saying, please, Mom, not on my birthday. Please,
mm,
not on my birthday. And she held on. But and I saw her. That was the last time that I saw her was on my birthday. And that was the vision that I wanted to have because it was my birthday.
yeah,
But again, not everybody thinks about grieving before, especially when like with my father, it was unexpected.
yeah,
With Tammy, you gave yourself the space and the grace to be able to grieve and mourn beforehand so that when it did come, as I say, you can grow through the process a little bit
yeah,
easier.
yeah,
You know what I mean?
yeah.
So with that, what do you think is the most important thing for somebody to do or be when grieving?
The most important thing for someone, for them, what should they do?
Yeah, like what is something that they could do?
Well, although everybody grieves, but they all do it in their own way. So that's
Yeah.
really like too ambiguous to even answer. Because what works for him may not work for her. I just, have to go back to saying that just allow yourself to feel what you feel. Be honest with what you're feeling and call it what it is. If you don't like to write journal or something, like you said, you put things in your phone, in your notes. When something comes up, record it or talk, say, But talking is probably, I would say, if nothing else, talk.
Mm-hmm.
Talking helps put everything into perspective.
Yeah.
Sometimes when you hear yourself and then you are able to move forward a little
Mhm.
better
Yeah.
once you verbalize your thoughts, your
Right.
feelings.
Because a lot of times people don't really know what they're feeling until they verbalize it, especially if they have someone like you who is a grief counselor or, a grief mentor, and they have a conversation and then you repeat it back to them. So I heard you say,
Uh-huh.
and they're like, wow, I did say that.
Yeah.
That also gives them a perspective to maybe look at how their process can be and how they can move forward.
I do something called EFT,
Mhm.
emotional
Mhm.
freedom technique.
Mhm.
And when I do my sessions, I don't bring it out all the time because it's so powerful. And I'm such an empath that I
Mhm.
take on stuff. And so it just, if the spirit moves, I'll say, hey, let me try this on you. And you go and you to these tapping points and you take these tapping points and you're reciting. And I'm reciting what they said and they're tapping and they're just putting it back in.
Mhm.
And then afterwards, they're like, I said that. Yeah, you did. You said that. And it's just a way of kind of releasing and moving that energy on so that you can go to the next phase of your grieving.
Absolutely. Which is why your business is called I Heal Tap.
Yes.
I love that.
Thank you. Thank
And
you.
have you found that it has been very effective? Like, does it, like you just said regarding, the ambiguity of what's the most important thing, but I know it's individualized. However, do you find that it is very effective?
The EFT? Yeah. Oh, definitely. Most definitely. Yeah. It's a great energy moving modality for sure.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Okay.
I love
Okay.
it. And when people experience it, they're like, "What was that?" And like,
Mhm.
"Why didn't you do that before? How could you have kept that from me?" But it's so powerful,
Yeah.
and I know my powers, and sometimes I'm like, I can't take this on right now. I had a client whose brother passed away. Well, he was actually murdered. I I don't remember how many rounds we did, but Kelly, when I was finished with him, I couldn't get up out of my chair. And I said, okay, I felt, first of all, my heart ached for that young man because I'm like, Lord, the world is on his shoulder. He can't move. And I'm like, I literally could not stand up from my chair. So I said, from now on, when we're together, I'm going to either cover my head, I'm going to have
Mhm.
a candle, I'm going to have some water. I have to have something around me. And
Yeah.
to the people who, don't understand the metaphysical, you know, that's what it is.
Mhm.
You have to
Mhm.
protect yourself and protect your
Mhm.
aura because I was at home by myself and I'm like, okay, how long do I have to sit in this chair before I can get up?
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, because
Yeah.
you're, as we know, empaths are sponges. And like you said, if we do not protect our energy, and outside of the EFT, but it's like if we do not have something, that if we're not conscious or aware of, okay, I'm going out into the world and I need to put a vortex around me of or something,
Mm-hmm.
then we take stuff home and it's like, why am I feeling like
Yeah.
this? I know this doesn't belong to me. There's no reason for me to feel like this. So then,
Yes.
we got to do all our little things to get that energy off. But
Yes.
yeah, that's powerful because it is, you're moving energy, and energy moves,
Yeah.
it can make you stagnant if
Yeah.
you don't know how to work with it.
And you had to be careful, what you say to the energy because I didn't want to send it back to him,
Mhm,
but
that's
I wanted
true.
to send it away from me, you
Yeah,
know? Yeah.
absolutely. So one of the things that the conversation piece is big on is community. And I know you have a lot of community around you and supported you during your grieving process. What does community mean to and for you?
Oh, man, community just means strength and love. If you have love, like love can stop a bullet. And that's give me all the love.
That's beautiful.
Thank
And
you.
my thing is is love always. So that is absolutely,
Yeah.
which takes me actually into another topic,
Hmm.
just to kind of lighten the mood a little bit. As far as community is concerned, you and your wonderful husband have
Yes.
created another business called Smoking Repeats, and it is turning cigar boxes into purses. And I have mine here. And I had
Yay.
so many compliments last year. And
Pull your handle up. Hold
yes,
handle.
yes, yes. And there's the
So,
hand.
you see your little tassels on the side.
Yes.
Yay. They're so fun.
So how did this come about, Kelly?
So it was a pandemic project.
Okay.
Yeah, Bria wanted to, it was our first outing after the world opened up.
Mm-hmm.
She said, let's go to that cigar shop and let's buy some cigar boxes. And she was going to wrap them in like African print, and she's going to
Mm-hmm.
make them into gift boxes and give to her customers. And girl, the shelter in place was lifted. She went home and left all those boxes in my garage. It's hilarious cleaning the garage out because everybody was cleaning out everything. We didn't have nothing to do but clean up. He says, well, these boxes are nice. I hate to throw them away. What can we do with them? I said, well, let me Google. I said, well, Google says you can make lamps, you can make a guitar, you can make a purse. I said, make me a purse. Made a purse. And he was like, Kelly, that's nice. I said, it is. I said, let me share it on Instagram. And the people were saying they wanted the purse. They said, I want one of those. I said, oh, Larry. So he said, I'll make her one. I'll make her one. So he kept making them and making them. I said, well, I wonder, can we sell these purses? Because I'm an entrepreneur. I'm going to sell it. If I can make it and sell it, I'm going to do it. And sure enough, it became a hit. Someone was carrying their purse on a boat on a yacht party in Maryland. And I got a DM from a guy who said, hey, this is such and such. I like to take some of your purses with me to a fashion show. And I ignored him. I was like, I don't know. The young lady's mother who had the purse, she says, Kelly, this man is trying to reach you and it's really serious. He wants to take your purses to New York Fashion Week with him. I'm like, okay. He took 15 purses and gave us the footage. And that was in 2001, 2021. Yeah. Um, so, I mean, we had just hadn't even been doing it for a year and actually had purses in a runway show during New York Fashion Week in New York.
I remember that.
I was like, where did we go from there?
Right.
Because that's every designer's dream. Yeah, and from there we are in a shop here. We just
Okay.
sold out in the shop, so I was supposed to go tonight, and I'm like, nope, I got Kelly tonight. I'll go replenish some boxes tomorrow. But it's been a slow journey back. Grief can mess with you, and it's definitely messed with my creative side.
Hmm.
Yeah, so hopefully, slowly but surely, I'm coming back.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And as you said, you give yourself grace.
Hmm.
And I mean, it's a process.
Yeah.
There is no time limit. You feel what needs to come up. I mean, there are days when I'm just like, I got his picture. Well, both of them have his picture and my mother's picture. I mean, they're behind me right now. And there are days where I'm just like, we're in over a year with you, Dad. And now we're at well, not almost 6.5 with you, Mom. Like, how? Me
Yeah.
and my sister, we text about this almost every day. Like, I cannot believe that these people are gone.
Your parents. Yeah. I
You
just,
know?
I've lost my dad. I can't imagine what it feels like to lose my mom. I just think that the world would be awfully stale. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's a process. I mean, I was closer to my father, but that doesn't take away.
Mm-mm.
That's the woman who carried me.
Yeah.
You know
She
what I
brought
mean?
you
So
here. Yeah.
it was definitely something. And I know for that process, it was like I wasn't feeling sadness for a couple of days. And I was in my head like something must be wrong with me because I'm not sad right now.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
then it came to me, it was like, because I felt like if I wasn't sad, I was moving on. And Spirit said, "You can never move on. That's your mom.
Yeah.
What you have to do is move forward
Yeah.
one step at a time." And I knew she didn't want me to stay there, just like my dad. And so it was just like, and I heard her. I was in the plane moving to California because I hear my dad all the time. He's more, my mother was more subtle than, than he was. So I definitely hear him. But
Yeah.
she was like, "You have to live your life. You have to live your life." So they show up, and butterflies. And, I saw a man that wasn't a black man that looked like my dad. And my
That's so
sister,
funny when that happens,
you
right?
saw that on my Instagram, and I was like, "This is crazy. He looks just like my dad."
That's
And
funny.
then, his birthday is February 10th. I saw this address that said 210. So
Yeah.
it's just like they show up. I know Tammy has shown up for you.
So, she's shown up for my daughter a lot.
Okay.
Like one day, my daughter called me freaking out because she was in the shower and all of a sudden she looks at the stained glass and there are all these T's.
Mm,
Whoa. Like I know that she's trying to give her a message. And I keep telling her there's something she has to do, and I won't put her business out here, but she needs to do it. And your aunt is telling you to do it. I said, and I think she's so much engrossed in my daughter, she doesn't have time to come over here to me. And I'm okay with that.
okay.
Yeah. I mean, but I talk to her all the time. I have my shrine of her downstairs that I know she really appreciates that. I
Hmm.
have shrines in my backyard
Hmm.
so that everywhere I look on there's something of Tammy, there's something of Tammy. But no, I'm waiting. And I've had like a small dream. But no, not so much because she's giving all the energy to Bria. Yeah.
Well, Bria needs it right
She
now,
does.
as you
Yes.
said. So she's just waiting.
Yeah. Yeah. And I'm patiently waiting.
Yeah. Because they do. I mean, people may think that's woo woo and all that stuff, and other people don't understand. But
Yeah.
listen, they show up.
Yeah. But I know that she knows that I'm okay. Like Metal needs her and Bria needs her. So I'm just hoping that, she's feeding all the good energy and direction, especially to her baby. Yeah.
How's she doing?
She's managing, managing better than I really expected. Tammy really, really, really coddled her. They were very, 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 very close. And she wasn't as prepared as we would have wanted her to be. Um, but she's managing and she's doing all right.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I'm glad she's doing good, especially to be so young.
Uh,
You know, it's like, I had my mom 46 years and my dad 51, and she had just turned, no,
yeah.
she was about to turn
No,
18.
she
She
turned
had just
18.
turned.
We always said Tammy waited.
Yes.
Meadow's birthday was July 14th.
That's right.
So she made it through the 14th and then she left on the 20th. Yeah. That was her number 20. She was born May 20th. She left here July 20th at 7:02.
Mm.
Yeah. She's a girl.
Wow.
She was so special. So special. But she left a lot of deposits in that city for Meadow. And so Meadow just has to just cash them in, the right way. And I know she's gonna be okay. She's gotta be
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah. The city has her, and she's got a lot of support.
Yes, she does.
Yeah. So another thing, we just talked about community. What comes to mind when you think of connection?
Connection is like currency. Yeah, I think of it being just as important as money. It's a financial gain. Yeah.
Yeah. That's another thing that we're all about here is connection,
Yeah,
community, storytelling, because you never know what you can gain and receive and learn and give to yourself after
yeah,
having one of these conversations.
true.
Like, who would have thought that grief would be something that's a gift to somebody?
Yeah,
You're gifting people, Kelly, and I appreciate it,
thank you.
because we need people like you.
Thank you.
And for me to be able to put you on this platform, and again, we'll share your information at the end. It's like, girl, you may be getting a lot of clients.
I have a full time job, which I really love my job, but I still every now and then I take clients, but not like I used to.
Yeah. Well, we can always get people to get your boxes and your journal. I'm all about that.
Yes.
Listen, I'm all
Yes.
about promotion, okay?
Thank you. Yes.
So we talked about you being a grandmother, you are a wife, and of course, a mom.
Yes.
Let's see, what is something that helps you, or how do you stay heart centered?
Well, listen, being a grandmother will soften the hell out of you.
I've heard, I've
Oh my
seen.
gosh. That little girl, now I have two. I have a 9-year-old grandson who's just so gorgeous. And then this, how many months is she? 17 months or so. She's the smartest 1-year-old I know, but I'm biased. She brings me so much joy. And she's been my really grief person. Whenever
Mhm.
I would feel sad, I would drive on over to Bria's house and just play with that little girl. Tammy always said she was taking her place. She said, Mavi's taking my place. She moving me out of here. And so I always look at her. I'm like, Tammy, you in there, Tammy?
Yeah.
So we have a good time, met Mavi and I. Yeah. So no, that's my soft space, my safe space, my happy place is being a grandmother. Yeah.
Yeah, well, I'm not gonna be that, but I know one of my superpowers is being an auntie.
And those are good superpowers. Yeah. Aunties are important.
I absolutely enjoy it. I mean, they're
Yeah.
25 and 15 now, but I'm gonna tell you, you talk about love. When that little girl came into this world,
Yeah.
I tear up every time I talk about her. Not to take away from my nephew Scooby, but she was the first,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And so it was like, this is what love is.
Yeah. Aunties are very important. They're the
Hmm.
second mothers.
Yeah,
Yeah.
she was my bestest friend. Excuse me. So with that, let's segue into what. So we asked what keeps you heart centered, but what inspires you, Kelly?
You know, I, I'm gonna just say I'm inspired by people that I meet. I'm really inspired by my daughter. It's a lot to being a mother and raising a child and then watching this child. Now, see, makes me want to cry. But raising a human being and to see that human being be successful, it's very inspiring to me. I think creative people who can dance, singers, creative people really inspire me. Yeah, because it's such a God given talent. I look at my daughter who is so smart and could have done a lot of things, but she's doing what she's supposed to be doing as this herbalist. But people, people like live to be in her presence and they hang on her every word. And it's like, with help the help from God. That's my DNA. That's my blood. Yeah, she's really a big inspiration to me.
Yeah,
Yeah.
she's amazing. I mean, even meeting her at what, 15?
When she was crazy.
I I latched on to her. As a matter of fact, Tracy Bear McGee, shout out to her for Sister Keeper. She called me and was like, "Listen, I got a young lady that I want you to meet." And the moment I met her, and Tammy was expecting Meadow,
Yeah.
like she
Yeah.
was ready to give birth.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's actually the first time I met Tammy. And here we are, 19, almost 19 years later. And if she were to call me and say, "Listen, can you?" There's no,
Yeah.
you don't even have to finish the question. I got you.
That was
Not
such
that
a
she would need
God-given
me,
moment.
but yeah.
Yeah, that summer was all God,
Hmm.
making
All
those
divine.
connections, those beautiful connections. Yeah.
Yeah, that will be my little sister for life.
Yeah.
You
I
know.
love that. Yeah.
Yeah. So what's next for you, Kel?
So I work full time, I told you that, for a hospice program. But I still do my own thing with I Heal Tap. I have been blessed by the Virginia Department of Health gave a grant to a nonprofit in Norfolk, and they wrote me into the grant. I'm like, that's so exciting. And I have gone to this organization to present once before. And now that the grant that I was written into is here, I go back to them to do a trauma, grief and trauma related presentation. They're starting a new trauma unit. So they want to know what are the different trauma responses that they might see. So we're going to go over some grief related trauma stuff, things that are not too heavy, but things that people experience,
Yeah.
and how boundaries are play a part in people's reaction and responding to people that are in power places, how fear of authority comes into play and the fight flight risk comes in, just things like that.
Right.
So I'm excited to be doing that. I am so amazed to be able to tell people, yes, I've been written into a grant. Little old
Yes.
Kelly.
I love that for you.
Yes, thank
Congratulations.
you. Thank you.
Yes.
Yeah. Next to that, I really enjoy my job, and I'll just keep, helping my families and holding different events in the city. Yeah.
And that's so admirable, Kelly, because again, we need people who hold space. And I mean, I didn't have a large community, but I had who I needed.
Yeah.
Those people didn't tell me what needed to be done. They listened.
Yeah.
When I needed to breathe, I was told to breathe. When I felt like I was about to fall out in this house,
Bless your heart.
my girl was there to catch me and to say,
Yeah.
"Okay, breathe,
Yeah.
breathe," and to hold space. Because again, it's a lot of energy, and it could take
Oh,
a lot out of you. But you are a space holder, and so I thank you for that.
you're welcome. Thank
That
you.
is again admirable.
Thank you.
So when it's all said and done, and you are at the end of your day. I don't mean days like death, but I mean,
Yeah.
you take off your clothes, you're getting ready to get in the bed and you think about life. Who is Kelly Buffalo Taylor?
Man, I have to, look inward sometimes too, because I'm like, I was I wasn't real studious in high school. I was a late bloomer. I remember once I started college as an adult being listed on the dean's list, and I said, yeah, I am a late bloomer who shows up late to the party, but when I hit the scene,
Listen,
bam, I'm on, okay? And
okay,
you want to be with me.
that's what I'm talking about. See, that's that Sagittarius energy.
Yes, I am a late bloomer, but when I'm on, I am really on. Like what you see is what you get. I'm a very real, down to earth person. I'm not going to give you this pretentious individual.
Mm.
You either are going to like all of this. No, you will like all of this.
Claim it, girl. That's right. You better claim it.
Listen, though, I know this about myself. I'm a very kind, very giving, and people always say I'm sweet. Now, they used to irritate me. She's so sweet, like sweet. But you know what? I am sweet, and it takes a lot to pop my bubble.
Mhm.
I'm patient, but I'm not a pushover. Yeah, but I love and I love hard, and those who I love, I really do. I go to bat. I'm gonna be there for you. Mm. But overall, I'm kind. I'm a
Yeah.
very kind person.
Well, Kelly, I again thank you for being here. You are my first guest. And of
Yay! Thank
course,
you.
I wanted you to be my first guest because again, I just experienced this.
Yeah,
And you just experienced it again. And I wanted you to be able to tell your story and for me to give a little bit of insight on what I did. But at the end of the day, this was all about you.
Thank you.
This was about you connecting to our audience, and again, we're all about building community. And my hope is that somebody will learn something from this conversation to feel, to deal, and to heal whatever the process is. Then that's life. It
Yeah.
doesn't have to be just the grief process.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
that's what this conversation was about.
Yeah. You're
Where can everybody find
welcome.
you?
Find me on all the socials, Instagram, Facebook, those two places as I Heal Tap, the letter I, HEAL Tap. And then also for my purses, Instagram, Facebook, Smoking Repeats.
Okay. And I will tag all of that and put everything, on the website. And when the episode drops, I will put all of your information out there as well.
Thank you. Also, let them know you can find my book at Barnes& and Noble online, Amazon online, or at ihealtap.com.
Yes,
Yes.
yes, Barnes and Noble, girl, come on. Well, that is all that I have for you, Kelly. Again,
Thank you,
thank
Kelly.
you. And to my Conversation Piece family, thank you. And remember to love always. We are out.
Appreciate it. Thank you.